Hey guys, and welcome back to the Girlfriends and Goals podcast YouTube channel. My name is Samaria, and I'm joined by my best friend and co-host Miyosha. And today we're reviewing Married at First Sight season 17, episode 9.
Hmm.
Before we get into the episode, please make sure you are subscribed to the channel and give this video a thumbs up. As always, meet us in the comments and let us know what you thought about this episode. All right.
Hmm.
We're going to start with Lauren and Orion because for whatever reason, they were on our screens again this week.
Why are they here? I don't know. Maybe it's some type of contractual obligation. I really don't want to see Lauren on my screen crying anymore.
Absolutely not. And I definitely don't see Orion. But
That's
yeah,
a hard no.
I appreciated her friends being like, girl,
It
if
was
you
the
got
sister-in-law.
oh, what the sister-in-law? Okay,
It was
gotcha.
the brother and the
Brother,
sister-in-law who was
sister-in-law,
like hyping her up. And after a while, like, girl, snap out of it.
period. So I appreciated that. And then he said, I can't jump into a relationship right now because I have a lot of feelings for her. Cut. Listen, we all know you don't. Like, just stop with the act. You've known her for 10 days. You don't have feelings.
What killed me though is he says, "Oh yeah, my mom and my sister were disappointed to find out that I didn't get what I wanted out of this." Well, you gave nothing, and it'll be interesting to see if they feel the same way once they watch all of this back. I will say, with Lauren, I'm surprised at how choked up she is about him in this relationship. Does feel like a lot given how short of amount of time that they were
Mhm.
together. When I see her crying, I also think about this timing is close, I feel like, to when she lost her mom.
Mhm.
So I'm wondering if it's her losing her mom, grieving the failed process
Yeah.
more than him. When she said, "Oh, the divorce wasn't my choice," I'm like, girl, don't say it one more time.
Stop saying that.
Please.
We ignored it the first time, girl. We don't want to hear it again. We're trying not to hear it.
Mm-mm. Yeah. And they're back next week. They're gonna be the
Ooh,
dead horse.
they
I'm
know how to,
over it.
because it's only three couples. They need to bring back Michael or
I know,
whatever.
and give him a new spouse.
Period.
Mm,
Okay. Do you want to move on to Becca and Austin?
please.
So they met up with both of their friends like together, I guess. They didn't do separate like other
Well, they
people.
did, yeah, they did the her birthday dinner
Oh, that's
situation,
okay.
whatever that was. Yeah.
And she said something that stuck out to me because she said, "Well, if this is the one thing that's wrong, then we can deal with it." And I'm like, religion is a big thing. Like, if that's the one thing, I feel like that's the one thing that could make or break the situation.
And this is not the one thing.
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
the kids thing, the health thing, and
Mhm.
I think it's becoming, for me, more glaring that they haven't brought up the health stuff at all anymore.
No.
Now, it could be because maybe she doesn't want to talk about it on camera, which would seem odd because of how much it was talked about in the first few episodes. But to me, that would be a big conversation. Like, how do you feel about my health situation?
And being the person who's potentially a caretaker.
Yeah. In that conversation, I think they brought up, or she brought up, how good of a communicator he is.
And I was like, why are you lying?
I I can't say he's a terrible communicator,
I feel like we
but
can.
really, okay, maybe
I
I'm being nice on it, but it seems that their communication is she brings up a topic and is talking, and he's just like, yeah. He's not giving a whole lot, but I think it's strategic a bit. He's not digging too deep. He's just going along to get along. I don't
Very
know if
scripted.
this is maybe him being more agreeable. I'm not sure, but I don't know if I say he's good or terrible. He's just saying, yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
he just is.
He just is. He's there.
She mentioned that he's the first guy who's not like rushing into things that are physical, and that at first she thought he wasn't interested, but now she's realizing, oh, that's just how he is. And I was like, you might want to go back to that first thought of him not being interested.
Now, do you remember, and y'all could tell us in the comments, was he the one at the bachelor party and maybe even his early scenes before they got married, where he said that he likes to take things slow? Did he say that before or after meeting her?
Mhm.
I feel like he may have said that at least once before.
Hmm. I do not
Now, I
remember
know
that.
he said it after meeting her, but I'm trying to rack my brain to remember, because even at the bachelor party, he was just kind of like, yeah, I'm here, but it's not really my thing. He didn't really talk too much about sex. Her on the other end, I mean, her friends come in smoking
Hot.
hot. I mean, how awkward is that to ask, so are y'all having sex?
Every time. Like, if
So
they
it's
were getting,
clearly of high importance to her, even though she's trying to downplay it in this conversation. Even if he mentioned it before they got married, I'm sticking by, I don't know that he's looking to advance in that area for a reason.
yeah, or that he's willing to advance in the relationship period. Like, I think
Yeah.
he's nice and they are having fun, but I don't see long term for them.
Question. And I was going to ask you this later, but since we're talking about physical intimacy, up until this point, have you, at least in this episode, did you see him go in for a kiss?
I don't remember him. No. Yeah, he's very much the responder.
She's the one always kissing him. He's always open and down.
Initiating.
But even that scene, like first thing in the morning, I'm like, girl, get that hot morning breath. That's what you want. She's like hovering over him.
It's a lot. It's a lot. She's very affectionate. I'll say that.
Right. Which is nothing wrong with that, but it got me to thinking like, okay, maybe he's not down for sex just yet, but I don't know if I've ever seen him give her more than a forehead kiss,
Hmm.
maybe. And it's usually her going in for it. I
Yeah,
wrote down that I'm getting pals that kiss here and there if she initiates it.
absolutely. Okay, so their friends seem to get along. That's great. Not much to
Mm-hmm.
say there. Um, it's it's interesting when Becca was talking to Austin's friend at the housewarming. My
Mm-hmm.
niece was watching with me, and she was like, "Of course, his friends are gonna say he's a nice person. Duh, girl. What else are they gonna say? Oh, like if you don't sit your preteen behind."
Not the kids calling them out. I mean, but it is true. Only if your friends are haters.
Exactly. But the thing with this whole like housewarming thing and them talking to the friends is like friendship is so much different from romantic partnership. So the friend making the point that, well, I'm an atheist and Austin accepts me. Yeah, but you're not going to be raising kids with him potentially. You're not the person who, if he needs prayer, he's going to be like, oh, I want my partner to do this. So, thankfully, in the comments last week, people were putting down, like, oh, my spouse and I are different religions and it works out just fine. We just respect each
Mm-hmm.
other. I don't know that that's a thing that Austin's interested in, though. And that's where I'm like, I don't know that I see it working.
That and even just his family dynamics. I mean, we saw his mom at the wedding. And so even if he can get to a place of accepting it, how does that play out with the family?
Mhm.
Yeah. Austin just seems very agreeable on those types of
Almost
things.
passive.
Yeah, like, okay, well, that's you. And maybe it's not an issue for him. I don't know. He said that he was friends with him for 14 years.
Mhm. And
Up
he just
until
started taking it seriously.
right. So even he's seen an evolution in him. So
Hmm.
what does this look like long term? And yeah, okay, well, your friend being atheist, what does that have to do with you going to church on Sunday morning and having your routine? And
Hmm.
I don't really think that it has much to do with anything. I will say though, Becca seems very on edge
Hmm.
about how she thinks he may treat her because
Yeah.
he is Christian. So I don't know. I'm like, Becca, you have to also give him a chance. I don't know that we know fully where he stands, but you can't make him pay for what
Other
other
people.
Christians have maybe done or not done to you. And so far, he's put on that he's very relaxed about it. Nothing about him says that this is going to be a problem, even though we know it is. But as far as them two, I don't know why she keeps bringing up like, oh, from what other people have done, this is how it's going to be. You can't punish everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what her friend group makeup is in terms of like religion and stuff.
So I put down a difference between them. So Austin, when he was talking to her friends, it seemed like he has this vibe of, oh yeah, I'm getting to know her now, and we'll deal with the important stuff later.
Mm.
Whereas she seems very like, I don't know, she seems more committed than he is already. Whereas he's like,
Mm.
oh, I'm still getting to know her, and then we'll figure out the rest later. So I
Yeah.
don't know. I just don't think they're on the same page at all.
He's taking it very slow because it's more than just a religion, I think.
For
And I
sure.
don't know that he is into her. Yeah.
Okay. So
Mm.
Claire and Cameron, I don't know, this episode didn't give us much
It really didn't. I still feel the way I did last week.
about Claire and
Um,
Cameron.
no, about Becca and Austin. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, about Becca and Austin. I still am not getting that he's as into her. He's
Hmm.
taking things very slow. Um, and I think her and her friends are very excited
Yeah.
that he's a cool guy from their perspective and
Yeah.
it's going pleasant so far, but I don't know that that equals a marriage.
Like I don't see them yelling at each other at any point in this process,
Mhm.
primarily because I don't know that Austin's invested enough to be passionate about
Mhm.
anything. And yeah, but also there's a respect there, and it does feel like friendship.
Pals that kiss. Yep.
Well, there
All
you
right.
have it. All right, Claire and Cameron. So Claire brings her hubby half of her sandwich at work, and I thought that was very sweet. She seemed
Mhm.
more into him during that date. You know, she was like, it's
Mhm.
great seeing someone who's passionate about what they're doing. And so, I don't
I
know.
I will say she asked him again, do you get bored and are you passionate about what you do?
Hmm.
That came up earlier before and once again he used this analogy of like, oh, I run into different things every day.
Yeah.
I didn't really care for her asking him that again.
Again.
Yeah,
Really?
I mean, if he bikes, he's been working on bikes for years. I
Just let
mean,
it go.
yeah, let it go. What does it mean? Not everybody will have a job that they're passionate about and whatever. Like life has different seasons and sometimes you may have to work a job that you're not passionate about. I mean,
Yeah.
it is what it is. So I don't know. I didn't really care for that. It felt kind of judgy in the moment.
But that's who she is, and I don't even know that she knows that she is, but she very much is. Um, how did you feel about him not
Girl,
preparing the food or getting the food?
couldn't be me. I mean, you know how I run things.
I
There's
would
no
be stressed.
way 2 hours before guests are coming that we don't even know where we're ordering from. We don't know what time. We don't know how we're going to keep the food warm. Are you trying to get people sick? What is going on here?
She handled it very nicely. And I think she handled it that way because they were strangers. Because if this was someone who I knew, I would not be this like nice. I'd be like, if you don't get,
And he
get
had the
the
nerve to be pressed about her decorations. We have vacuums, we have brooms. Okay, your house is going to get messy in a party if the balloon pops. Who cares? What I care about is the most important thing, not being here. It's the food.
food, literally. And he's like, oh, well, we're in downtown Denver. I mean, we won't have a problem. Depending on what time it is, how do you know several people aren't going to put their orders in and now we're like delayed?
Even the way he handled ordering the food, I don't know, something about his energy just gives trolling a bit. And
A
that
lot.
could get annoying very quick, especially in a situation where this is going to reflect on the both of us and how serious we take this.
Girl. Then he had the nerve to say, I don't really think it's about the food. I think she's just nervous about me meeting her friends. No, it is about the food because why is it not here? Why have you not
And
thought about it?
then he places the order without like verbally confirming. So like, hey, by the way, we're ordering da 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 da. It's gonna be here in 15 minutes. It was almost like he clicked send and then was like, oh well.
15 minutes. And then she's like, okay, okay. So he went from like one extreme to the next. He went from I don't have any food to okay, now I have the food showing up in about 5 minutes. And it's like, are we not on the same page? Like, you're clearly not understanding the assignment. The goal is to have warm food for our guests when they arrive for the party. So I need you to think things through. Like he
And why wouldn't you call the restaurant since you're so last minute placing an order for a party? Something like that is you call it in and okay, the app won't let me do it, but let me call
yeah.
and say, okay, hey, actually, could you do it for X time?
Yes.
Cameron, how old are you? Is this your first time placing a large pickup order?
Right. He just does not care.
She handled that much better than I think most.
It could not have been me. Because at this point, I would have been like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and order it. I'm gonna do like just let me do everything. You're stressing me out.
But then he had the nerve to like be all nonchalant about the food being warm or not. And she sees that the oven isn't even on. So
He
you
said
you
he said it was on about 20 minutes.
so you let food that you picked up hours beforehand just sit in the oven that's not on. You're not gonna go pick up no burners, nothing. No, not burners. What do they call those chafing dishes?
Yeah.
Something.
It,
And then he was like, "Oh well, it doesn't even look that good."
yeah, he was very
Ooh.
annoying. Um, okay, so the friends come and Claire held it together. Well, the first friend comes, and that was when they were having the conversation about whether, like what his relationship with was with his dad. And he said distant. And then he said that the dad didn't know about the process, which earlier in the season he said both of his parents knew and they were going to have a whole wedding in Ireland. Where is he from again?
New Zealand.
New
Yeah.
Zealand. I don't know why I keep going to Ireland, but yeah, so they were gonna go to New Zealand and have a wedding. So all of a sudden he gets defensive, like, well, what would you tell a dying man? It's like,
All she said was, "Oh, I didn't know that," because she's probably replaying what was said to her beforehand. And that is a big deal. The way he presented it initially was, "Oh, they just can't be here because of the logistics and how
yes,
far, but we'll celebrate with them. They're happy for me."
yes.
If I were her in that moment, I would be like, "Who is this person? And what is the real situation? You've told me a mixed story about your parents, how much they know. You done got kicked out the church. What else has happened that I need to
Oh my gosh. But
like?"
it made me think like, what have they been talking about? So the dad hasn't come up since the first episode.
He hasn't brought it up. And I know based off of what he said, like later in the conversation, where
Hmm.
I think from his perspective, he feels like because there is a lack of interest on her part, he's not motivated to open up more. But I think you being estranged from a parent who's not well
Hmm.
is pretty significant. It's you should bring that up off camera,
At some
especially if there
point.
was no family members at this wedding,
Yeah.
especially if you observe how close she is with her family. You know she's going to be wondering, okay, well, what's the dynamic you have with yours? And even if it's not the exact same, I don't, I'm shocked that he was so surprised that she would be like, whoa, and you bring this up to a friend right here, right now.
And then he did it in a way to like make her look bad. Like, well, what would you say? It's like, whoa, I think she handled it very well. Like she even apologized because it was a sensitive thing. So yeah, Claire handled herself very well this entire episode, with the exception of her being judgy, which again, that's just who she
Yeah.
seems to be. Okay. So I guess later on, he mentioned that he felt like he was sinking and,
Hmm.
she talked to her friend and said she doesn't do well with people whose family isn't involved with them. because of her dynamic. So I don't know. I think
Mhm.
Clara and Cameron just never seem to be on the same page.
Mm-mm. They're never clicking. It seems that he is looking to advance things physically
Mhm.
and then open up emotionally. Where from her perspective, she's like, no, I want to open up and get to know you
Yeah.
before I would proceed with anything physically with you. So they're on very opposite ends of the
Yes.
spectrum. He says that, oh, things have been bumpy, but he really likes her. She's the smartest girl. She says that, oh, he's a really smart guy. There are several things that she likes about him, but she wonders if it'll ever be enough.
Yes.
There's this element of mystery of Cameron that I don't feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
And I could see her. I'm not saying that she shouldn't show some affection. I think she's on the extreme end with that. But I don't know. There's something about him where it's like, how can you realistically expect this girl to want to be physical with you when you troll her in conversations? It's so
All the time.
obvious.
Yeah.
You haven't been forthcoming about what your situation is with your family, and they weren't there. Who's here to verify who you are as a
Hmm.
person?
Yeah.
And you want to jump to being physical with her.
I'm
So,
uneasy with him for sure. And I'm a clear in that if it doesn't make sense for me, like emotionally,
mhm.
logically, it's just not gonna go very far.
And what did you think about him? I guess maybe being nervous or maybe not nervous, on edge about having three therapists who would be at this housewarming because he didn't have anybody show up, by the way.
And can we talk about that? All your friends pulled out last minute. Did I honestly
He
when
didn't invite him.
that's what I think. You didn't even, first of all, you didn't even think about the food, which was your one responsibility. You expect me to believe that you invited friends and they all couldn't show up?
And I wonder if his nonchalant attitude as far as the planning was it because it was just her people. I don't know. Like,
Um,
why would you do that?
he felt like he didn't have anybody to impress.
Mm-mm.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
if no friends to show up, validate who you are as a person. Maybe he could feel like, oh, the friends would be judgy, if they're therapists, they're gonna psychoanalyze him or
That's what he
whatever. But
said, right? It's like, okay, child, then you have some people since your friends are so unserious and not gonna psychoanalyze, bring them next time. Uh,
yeah,
anyway, that was all I had on them, but Karen is such a wild card. I don't know what to make of him
we don't know who he is. Yeah.
outside of bikes. Okay, Emily and Brennan.
Hmm.
So he did decide to move in.
Yay.
Right. I was like, are we supposed to be happy about this? Or Emily had a conversation with a friend at the beginning of the episode, and she
Oh
said
yeah,
that
that sit down. Yeah.
and she said she thinks they're aligned values wise. And I put interesting because I don't see a value that they are aligned on.
She said they have so much in common, and we see how he treats her. Nothing about Emily gives that she would treat people that way.
And they're not even aligned on what is fun. Like,
It in that conversation with the friend, it
mhm,
felt like she no, was she trying to cover up? She was trying to
that's
paint it better than what it is. She did say like, "Oh, he's not opening up," but then she says, "Oh, I think it's because of the cameras, girl. It
cameras
is not the camera's fault."
at all.
Yeah, and the
That's
friend was
really
just looking
good.
at her like, "I'm not buying it, but okay, girl."
You know, her friends at the beginning were very mean. And I guess these are new friends because these ones weren't at the wedding. But
Mm,
it seems like they're seeing through all the shenanigans, you know?
mm-hmm.
They're not to be
Yeah.
fooled. And then she kept saying something like, oh, yeah, you know, like relationships are hard. And I don't know what type of relationship her friend has, but she said, yeah, I've learned that from your relationship. Like relationships are hard. And it's like, I mean, they take a lot of effort, but at the beginning, should they
This-
be this hard? Like, I don't think so.
Mm-mm. No, this should be the fun
Honeymoon.
phase.
Yes.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
But
Mm.
yeah.
Anyway, so this part really ticked me off.
Hmm.
And Emily was bringing her stuff in, and this man was just standing there. she has a broken arm or wrist, or I don't know what part of her
Mhm.
body,
There's
hand.
something going on.
Right. And she's
Yeah.
having to drag her stuff from the bottom, even if there is an elevator, but she's having to drag her stuff in. It's like the first time she brought stuff in, you might expect a gentleman to be like, oh, okay, is there more stuff? Like, I'll go and help you get it.
Mhm.
Stood in that same spot the entire time.
Girl, you got it.
And then he's like, oh, yeah, she has so much stuff. It's so overwhelming. Is there anything that's not overwhelming to you?
He seems annoyed by her mere presence.
Existence. Yes.
And if you're going to, what he moved in felt like, oh, I just plan to be here for a weekend.
He brought
Those
like
two.
2 things. Yeah.
So that's showing your intention versus I think he was just like, oh, she's all in. She's
Mhm.
moving here for 8 weeks. Who wants to be going back and forth home every day for
He
two
does.
months? Yeah, because he doesn't plan on being there. He just
Yeah.
seemed so annoyed by her. And in that moment, I'm thinking, this reflects your character of who you are as a person.
Mhm.
You wouldn't even help. I would help a random person. Like if I saw them struggling with something, I would say, hey, like, you want me to help you carry that? Or this is
And
just
you
common
know she's injured. Like,
decency. Like,
without the injury, I would have helped, but she's like injured.
he don't care. And it's not even that you have to like this girl from a romantic standpoint. Just
Just as
as
a
a
good person.
human,
Yes.
I feel
Uh,
so bad for her. And she better than me because I would have said something.
she's really trying to make the best out of a terrible situation. And maybe it's because it's her first relationship. Like she's perceptive though. So like she
Mhm.
knows it's off. And obviously that showed up in the conversation that her friends had with him later. Like she's saying things that make it obvious he's not a good choice.
But I will say, I think she's struggling to find her voice with him.
Absolutely.
And I could see why. His energy is very intense. And if I were in a close space with a person giving off that type of energy, I probably would go along to like to a certain extent. Cause I don't know, something about him just
You
gives
don't
me the
want
heebie-jeebies. Like I'm like, oh, okay. Like I don't know that I would ruffle too much.
to.
He just seems like he would just go off. Just I
He's
don't know.
he's the type of person where like as you're hanging out with him in your mind you're like, yeah, I'm never hanging out with this person ever again. Like he's one of those people. Like, yeah, this is a first date only because I can't
Like
deal with it.
the way he was looking at her when he was standing off in the kitchen, and
Yeah.
I was just like, girl, get out of there. It's not
You
safe.
in danger, girl. You can't.
And maybe that's what she's picking up on, like just going along to get along.
Yeah,
Ah, man, oof.
I feel for her. Okay,
Yeah.
so at the wig shop, he said he was glad he moved in. He talked about how he never wants a divorce, which at this point I'm begging him to give her one. Okay, can we move on to the friends?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because they were not feeling that he only moved 2 things. Like when they came in and they were like, well, why didn't you move more things? You know? So they
Well,
definitely.
Emily said something in that moment. So when they were all together at the housewarming, she
Mhm.
said they all like they were all standing around. Is that what you're talking about? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool, cool. All right.
Oh, did you
You
want
can
to
go.
share what she said?
Yeah, yeah, she said that she moved all the stuff up by herself with her wrists all messed up.
Yeah.
And they were just kind of looking at her like, and they were
Why?
like, you didn't help. And then he made a joke about it and laughed.
Like,
Something about the hands.
yeah, she has extra hands, the little hands. Like, okay.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
Okay. So he said he's more giving. This is a conversation that they had
Mhm.
out on the balcony.
Oh, yeah.
He said he's more giving than not. And I was like, where? Where has he given anything? You don't even want to give her access to your like secret group or whatever he says. What
His
is it that
close
he calls it?
circle.
His close circle secret group. But yeah, his
Okay.
close
Tony
circle.
Soprano.
Right. But okay, do
Mm.
you feel like her friends should have called him out the way that they did?
Well, I think it started off okay.
Okay.
Because the first thing that they said was, they were like, okay, why are you here? Like, they started off cordial. They tried.
They did try.
Why are you in this process? And he says, oh, I've tried the dating thing. I wasn't making any progress. Okay. Then he jumps to the whole like, oh, I'm more giving than I am receiving. And they're like, oh, glad you bring that up. Why didn't you help her, move the stuff or whatever, or
Yeah.
help her
Take
in the
stuff out the
kitchen?
oven.
Oh yeah, take stuff out the oven. And then he says, oh, well, if this was real life, I 100% would. So I feel like that's the moment where they were just floored, especially green
Yeah.
hair. She was just couldn't contain herself. He said, if this was real life, I would have helped her. But you got to understand the situation. Sir, understand what?
This is
This
real
is real
life.
life. This isn't some made up world.
And I feel like
He thinks he's in The
Brennan,
Sims or
yeah,
something. I don't know.
Brennan isn't here for, like, I think he feels like this is an acting gig because he treats it like that with not wanting to move in, with not feeling like this is real life, with how he treats her. It's like he thinks this is something to put on his resume.
Yeah, and they say that this is real life, and that's why we're worried. We're trying to understand you, trying to get to know you. And then it goes more left when he gets into the nitty-gritty details about, oh, well, I technically did pull stuff out of the oven. And they're like, I don't know if they were a little inebriated, but the point they were trying to make is that yes, you did one thing, but in the grand scheme of helping her, you really
Yeah.
didn't do much. You sat back and let her do mostly everything else. And he did not see the problem.
So I don't know, the footage showed she did pull something out of the oven and then he pulled another thing out of the oven. So
Mm-hmm.
he was making it seem like he pulled everything out. And it's like, it's a housewarming for your friends and her friends. You could have been more helpful in preparing things.
That on top of not helping her move her
Mhm.
stuff upstairs, on top of you not wanting to move in. Now, I will
Mhm.
say the friends did escalate because I think she was telling them things. And
Yeah.
this is where if I were Emily, I would have been more strategic about what I told them.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I
Only
would have. It's her first
oh
relationship. She don't know that.
yeah, well, yeah, she don't know. But had she had more experience, I would have been a little bit more strategic
Hmm.
so that they could have bought some things up, but they were already pissed off with him.
Yeah.
They tried,
Yeah.
then that whole this isn't real life thing, I think really sent them. And then him getting into the nitty gritty, trying to play mind games with them, sent them
Hmm.
even more. And then it was just, Pink Hair was just like, where am I? What is this? Is this guy serious?
And they definitely did have a few drinks because it was giving, especially towards the end. Like, but it seems like Brennan has issues with women, like authority figure. Like he's on his Orion real heavy right now. Because in the previews for next week with Dr. P, I don't know if they showed them on yours,
Mm-hmm.
and she keeps having to tell him like, oh, I'm talking to Emily right now, so let me address her. And he keeps trying to interrupt, like,
Yeah. He's very confrontational. So when Green Hair, she chimed in, I'm sorry to circle back. I don't remember their names. It's no disrespect, I promise. But she says, oh, you don't like filming. You've made it miserable. I wrote, she slipped. See, this is where she should have been more strategic about what she put on, like what she told them, so that they wouldn't be too specific.
but you know what, Miosha? I also
Mm,
think it's the type of friends. Like if I would have, because if I were talking to you, I probably would
mm,
have told you everything. But
yeah.
you know, hey, don't show your work. Like
Mm-mm.
you can't tell him everything I said. You could like dance around things, be very tactful. You know, you have to be very careful with how you handle a stranger. This is your first time
Oh
meeting,
yeah.
you know, and you can't come in so hot. You just have
And
to let
save
him
the
know.
shots for after he pisses you off.
Exactly. You just have to let him know, like, okay, I got my eye on you, you know, like that's all that you need.
Yeah. And I feel like it gave him room to have an excuse. What did he say? Oh, he claims like, oh yeah, Emily must have told you something. That's why you're coming in here attacking me. Instead of him just taking
No,
accountability.
because he
He's
never
like,
will.
oh, it's because you said something. Then green hair says, oh, I don't know that you have the emotional capacity. So he probably has issues with women, maybe in an authoritative role or questioning him, but especially when everything that they're saying is true, he was highly triggered. Like,
Very.
how dare y'all come on here and tell me about myself trying to make me look bad? No, dude, you're making yourself look bad.
Have been since the beginning.
Yeah. And
Um,
then when he says, oh, I'm still here, I'm still here. And
but
then
that's
he
not the friends
says,
you think it is.
yeah. Then he says to them, oh, well, I don't know you. And they just look at each other like, isn't that why we here?
The nerve of him.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, I think Emily handled it well at the end of the night when he said, she was like, I love your friends. And he was like, yeah. And, but when he brought up how her friends, attacked him, and she said, I apologize because nobody should feel that uncomfortable. I think they're coming from the perspective of they care for me, they know me, they want me
Mm-hmm.
to be in good hands. Like, I think she did a very good job of acknowledging what he was feeling, but also I'm not about to be like, oh, my friends are
Mm-mm.
whatever because they came at you a certain way because you've been acting shady towards me. And in the end, he said something that to me is problematic. So he said, I appreciated her having my back in that moment. And so I wonder what having Brennan's back entails, because it seems like it
Mm-hmm.
means when people are holding me accountable, you are against those people because they're clearly against me. And so I hope, and I think like Emily won't feed into that. Like
Mm-hmm.
she doesn't seem like the person who's just going to go along with him being a jerk and be like, "Oh, this is
Mm-mm.
okay." But yeah, I just didn't like that because it seems like no matter how wrong I am, I want you to have my back.
Yeah. Brenda's mom tried to tell us he's stubborn, has a temper,
Yes.
and we're
Yeah.
seeing, I think he thinks that he's on an acting gig and doing a good job, but I really feel like he's making it worse. He just comes across as mean.
He is mean.
And I hate to say that because I don't know this man,
I'm surprised he
but
has friends.
yeah, it's
He's just
when he
not
was saying
giving
like,
friends.
oh, it's not working on the dating apps, and this is like, well, if this is what you presented.
I wouldn't even want to be friends with this person. Like based on how people treat others, I'd be like, yeah, I can't be out here like, oh yeah, that's my friend. That's my no, it'll be a wrap for me.
Yeah, I another reason I was thinking that maybe she shouldn't have said too much to the friends
Mhm.
in a situation that's not this bad. If you do work past it and he improves, your
Mm,
friend's still not gonna like him. So
ever, ever.
it's a wrap.
All
Mm.
right. Well, that's all we have. Let us know in the comments what you guys think about this boring episode. It looks like it gets a little more exciting next week when the experts show up, which I appreciate them showing up this season because in previous seasons they were a little scant, but
Mhm.
they're here to do their jobs this season. But yeah, let us know what you guys think, and we will see you guys on our next video. Remember, we are doing Vlogmas, so new videos
Mhm.
every day. If you maybe started along with us and fell off, go ahead and catch up for us. The videos are
Yep.
there. And yeah, we will see you guys on the next one.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.
Mhm.